Out in the farmlands, people say the cornfields aren't empty after dark. They say figures move between the rows, tall, silent, and waiting. If you stare too long, you'll see them watching you. And if you ever step inside at night, you won't come back the same. I grew up in a small Midwest town where nothing exciting ever happened. The kind of place where people still leave their doors unlocked, where Friday nights mean football games and bonfires. But like every small town, ours had its own legend. We called it Hollow Acres, a sprawling cornfield that stretched for miles on the outskirts of town. In the daytime, it looked ordinary, just rows of golden stalks swaying in the wind. But everyone knew the rule: never go in after dark. People whispered about figures that lurked inside, too tall to be human, their eyes glowing faintly between the rows. They didn't move when you looked at them, but when you blinked, they'd be closer. Most kids grew up terrified of Hollow Acres. But me, I thought it was just another campfire story to keep us from trespassing. That's why, on the last weekend before senior year, when my friends dared me to spend one night inside the cornfield, I agreed. It was supposed to be a joke, a way to prove I wasn't scared. We gathered at dusk, the sky painted with streaks of orange and purple, cicadas buzzing in the warm air. Mark, the loudmouth of our group, grinned as he handed me a flashlight. "You last one standing, man. Everyone else chickened out," he said. I smirked. Guess I'm the only one with guts. Alicia, quieter but sharper than the rest, shook her head. "It's not funny. People disappear out there." "Yeah," Mark said, smirking wider. "Like your cousin's friend, right?" He mimicked a ghostly wail. Everyone laughed. Everyone except Alicia. I slung my backpack over my shoulder. "Look, I'll stay in there until sunrise. Then you can all shut up about it." They followed me to the edge of the field. The corn rose taller than us, walls of rustling stalks, the dirt path swallowed by shadow as the sun sank lower. "Midnight," Alicia whispered. "If you hear anything at midnight, don't answer." I raised a brow. "Don't answer what?" She didn't reply. Mark patted me on the back. "See you in the morning, champ." And just like that, they left me there, alone. The first few hours weren't bad. I set up near the middle of the field, where the rows met in a small clearing. I had a blanket, a lantern, and enough snacks to keep me company. Crickets chirped all around, and the corn swayed gently in the wind. It was almost peaceful. But the deeper night fell, the heavier the air grew, the sounds of the world, bugs, wind, distant cars, seemed to fade, replaced by silence so thick it pressed on my ears. I clicked my lantern higher, the glow cutting through the rows. My flashlight beam flicked across stalks that all looked the same, endless and suffocating. And then I heard it, a faint shuffle, like a foot dragging through dirt. I froze, straining my ears. The sound came from somewhere in the rows to my left. Slow, deliberate. "Mark," I called, forcing a laugh. "You out here messing with me?" The corn rustled, but no voice answered. I told myself it was the wind, maybe an animal. But when I shone my flashlight, the beam caught something. A figure, tall, motionless, standing between the stalks. Its head tilted just slightly, like it was watching me. My throat went dry. "Hey, who's there?" The figure didn't move, didn't speak, and when I blinked, it was gone. The corn shifted, whispering in the dark. My pulse hammered. I gripped the flashlight tighter, sweeping it in every direction, but the clearing was empty. Just me, the corn, and the dark. I tried to calm myself, Probably just my imagination. Shadows, tricks of light. But then I remembered Alicia's words. Don't answer at midnight. I checked my watch. 11:57 p.m., 3 minutes until midnight. And that's when the whisper came. Faint, carried on the wind. Don't leave. The voice wasn't mine. It wasn't Mark's. It wasn't anyone I knew. It came from deep inside the cornfield. The voice was faint at first, almost like a trick of the wind. Don't leave. My skin prickled. I swung my flashlight toward the sound, but all I saw were endless rows of corn, their stalks bending in the night breeze. I swallowed hard. It's nothing, just your head playing games. But then it came again, clearer, stronger. Don't leave. This time the voice was right behind me. I spun around so fast my lantern nearly toppled over. Nothing. Empty clearing. Shadows stretching long and sharp. My chest heaved as I tried to laugh it off. Okay, good prank. You got me. But no one answered. The silence was heavier now, pressing in from every side. The corn stood still, unnaturally still, as though the wind had died. I thought about walking back, about cutting through the rows and heading for the road, but something in my gut told me that turning my back would be a mistake. And then, movement, a flicker between the stalks, just on the edge of my vision. I jerked the flashlight toward it. There, a figure, tall, thin, too thin. Its limbs seemed wrong, too long, stretched out like shadows. And it wasn't alone. As my light cut across the rows, I saw more of them, standing silent, watching, each pair of glowing eyes reflecting back at me from the dark. 1 step, 2 steps. They didn't rush, didn't lunge, just drifted closer each time I blinked, each time the light faltered. I stumbled back into the clearing, my breath ragged. Stay away, I shouted, my voice cracking. The corn rustled as if in reply. And then, laughter. Not human laughter. Not quite. It was broken, distorted, as if someone had taken the sound of laughter and played it backward. I dropped the flashlight. The beam spun wildly, slashing across stalks, faces, shadows, then landing on empty space. The figures were gone, or hiding. I scrambled for the flashlight, gripping it with shaking hands. It's not real, I muttered. It's not real, it's not. A whisper cut me off. This time, right in my ear. Stay with us. I screamed and swung the flashlight wildly. Nothing. But when I turned back toward my lantern, my stomach dropped. It wasn't where I left it. The lantern was 5 feet closer to the corn, as if something had dragged it. My watch beeped. Midnight. The moment the sound rang out, every stalk in the field seemed to shiver at once, like 1,000 unseen hands brushing against each other. And then, from all around me, voices rose in unison. Don't leave. Stay. Stay with us. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Layered and overlapping, as though the field itself was speaking. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it didn't stop. The voices weren't just around me. They were inside me, crawling beneath my skin. And through the wall of whispers, one stood out. A child's voice, small, fragile. Help me. My breath caught. I turned toward the sound, deeper in the rows. For just a moment I saw something. Someone. A little boy. No older than 8. His clothes tattered, his face pale, his eyes wide with terror. He raised a hand toward me. Help me, he whispered again. And then, hands burst from the corn. Dark, skeletal hands, wrapping around the boy, dragging him back into the stalks. His scream was cut short, swallowed by the rustling leaves. I staggered backward, my heart hammering. My body screamed at me to run, to leave, but Alicia's warning echoed in my head. Don't answer at midnight. And I realized with horror, I already had. My whole body trembled as the boy's scream vanished into the rustle of the corn. The whispers quieted, but not completely. They sank into a low murmur, like a crowd chanting just out of earshot. I forced myself to breathe, gripping the flashlight so hard my knuckles burned. It's not real. It's not real. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. I had seen him, and I had answered. The ground beneath me felt soft, almost spongy, as though the earth itself was rotting. Each step sank slightly deeper, pulling me toward the rose. I turned in circles, trying to find the path I'd entered through, but the clearing looked different, wrong. The way I came in was gone. The corn had shifted. Now there were only rows, endless rows. I picked a direction and ran. The stalks whipped against my arms, scratching my skin as I pushed through. My flashlight beam bounced wildly, cutting across the shadows that bent and stretched unnaturally. Every so often, I caught glimpses of them, tall figures just ahead, always just out of reach. Sometimes one would turn its head, slowly, and the glow of its eyes would lock with mine before fading back into the dark. I ran faster, my chest burning, my breath ragged. But no matter how far I pushed, the rows never ended. The whispers rose again, following me. Stay. Stay with us. My legs ached, but I didn't dare stop. I burst into another clearing, smaller this time. In the center stood a scarecrow, its straw body slumped, its burlap head tilted at an angle. I froze. Its stitched mouth was moving. The burlap strained with every word, dry and broken, but unmistakable. Don't run. My stomach lurched. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over my own feet. The scarecrow's button eyes gleamed in the beam of my flashlight, reflecting faint light like a predator's. And then, its arm twitched. Not a lot, just enough to make the hay crackle inside. Nope, I whispered, backing away. Behind me, the corn rustled. Footsteps. I spun around and froze. A figure stood at the edge of the clearing. Then another, and another. They stepped out of the rows one by one, 5, 10, a dozen. All of them towering impossibly thin, their faces hidden in shadow except for those glowing eyes. I aimed my flashlight directly at one and nearly screamed. The light didn't fall on a face. It fell on a mask, rough, cracked like bark from a dead tree, carved with jagged slits for eyes. And behind the mask, something shifted, something alive. They began to circle the clearing, slow and deliberate, their movements synchronized like a ritual. The scarecrow's mouth moved again. Now, you belong. My chest tightened. I wanted to run, but every row of corn was blocked by them. No escape. The figures stopped moving. And then, in perfect unison, they raised their hands. Long, sharp fingers stretched toward me. The whispers crashed into a roar, hundreds of voices at once, filling my head until I thought it would split open. I dropped to my knees, clutching my skull, the flashlight rolling away. And just before the light went out, I saw it. The scarecrow had stepped down from its post, and it was walking straight toward me. The moment the scarecrow's hay-stuffed legs hit the ground, the whole field seemed to tremble. The earth groaned under me, the stalks rattling as though something massive was moving beneath the soil. I staggered back, grabbing for my flashlight, but the beam sputtered weakly, its battery drained, the light coughing out shadows more than illumination. The scarecrow tilted its burlap head. The stitched mouth tore wider, as if smiling. And then, the corn moved. Not from wind, not from footsteps. The rows themselves began to twist. Stalks leaned and curled, bending together like giant ribs closing in around me. What was once an open clearing shrank into a narrow corridor, forcing me toward the dark. I ran. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I just ran. The dirt path beneath me warped, splitting into trails that weren't there before. Each row opened into 2, then 4, then more, twisting back on themselves like the guts of some endless labyrinth. Every time I looked over my shoulder, they were there. The figures. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Slipping between the rows, never rushing, never falling behind. Always at the edges of my vision. Their glowing eyes burned like embers in the dark. Stay, the voices droned. Stay with us. I sprinted harder, lungs tearing, my legs burning, but the rows shifted faster than I could move. Paths bent sharply where they shouldn't, whole corridors closing behind me, cutting off escape. It wasn't a cornfield anymore. It was a living maze. I stumbled into another clearing, bigger this time, the moon barely filtering through above. My heart dropped. Scarecrows, not one, not 2, dozens, all standing in a wide circle, their straw bodies slumped, their burlap faces sagging, each with button eyes that gleamed faintly, as though catching a light I couldn't see. I froze. One scarecrow twitched, then another, their heads turned in unison. Every button eye locked on me. The circle began to close. No, 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 no. My voice cracked as I spun, shoving through the nearest row. The stalks fought me, their leaves slashing my arms, catching my clothes. It was like trying to shove through a wall of knives. I burst out into another path, gasping. But when I turned, the circle of scarecrows was gone, replaced by figures, the tall ones, the watchers. Their masks loomed between the rows, closer than ever. I staggered back. My flashlight flickered again, sputtering, then died completely. Darkness swallowed me, and in that blackness the voices grew. Not whispers now, not chants. Laughter. Broken. Warped. Overlapping, like 1,000 throats trying to mimic something human, but failing. I clutched my head, screaming, but the sound drowned in theirs. And then, silence. Utter, absolute silence. I lowered my hands. My ears rang. My chest heaved. The silence was worse than the voices, because in it, I could hear something else, breathing, right behind me. I spun. The scarecrow stood inches away, its burlap mouth ripped wide open, threads dangling, hay spilling out like teeth, and then the field moved again. The ground cracked beneath my feet, rows splitting apart, paths twisting into impossible angles. Stalks bent overhead, forming walls, archways, tunnels. The corn groaned like a living creature, pulling itself into shapes that should not exist. I ran. I didn't care where. I just ran. Left, right, straight. Another turn. Another. Every corner I took, the maze reshaped itself, bending me deeper inside. No way out. No escape. The last thing I saw before the dark swallowed me whole was the scarecrow stepping into the maze with me. Following. Always following. The maze swallowed me whole. Every turn twisted back into itself. Every corridor ended in shadows that shifted when I blinked. I ran until my legs screamed, until my throat was raw from sucking in the heavy, stale air. But no matter how far I went, the rows only grew taller. The stalks leaned closer, their leaves sharp as blades, brushing against my skin as though tasting it. At some point, I don't know when, I stopped running. I couldn't. My body shook too hard, my breath ragged, my mind burning with whispers that never left. That's when I saw it. A light. Not lantern light. Not a flashlight. Something else. A faint, golden glow spilled between the stalks ahead. I stumbled toward it, tripping over roots and uneven ground, until the rows opened into another clearing, and there it was. A house, old, rotted, half swallowed by corn. Its wood sagged, its roof caved in, but inside the broken windows, the glow pulsed like a heartbeat. I should have turned back, but something pulled me forward. An invisible thread wrapped it tight around my chest. The whispers grew clearer as I stepped onto the porch, the boards groaning beneath me. Stay. Home. Family. I pushed the door open. Inside, the glow burned brighter, spilling from the walls themselves. The air was thick, almost alive, vibrating with every breath I took. And the house wasn't empty. Figures stood in the corners. Not the tall watchers, not the scarecrows. People, dozens of them. Men, women, children. Their skin was pale, stretched thin over their bones. Their eyes glowed faintly like the cornfield's figures. But their faces were familiar. Too familiar. I knew them. Neighbors, classmates, people from town who disappeared over the years. People everyone thought had run away. They stared at me, their mouths opening in unison. "Welcome home," they whispered. My stomach dropped. I stumbled back, shaking my head. No, you're dead. You're all dead." One of them stepped forward, a man with a torn flannel shirt and hollow cheeks. I recognized him instantly, Mr. Hargrove, the farmer who'd owned Hollow Acres, before he vanished 15 years ago. His lips cracked into a smile. "We don't die here," he rasped. "We change." The others nodded, their heads tilting in perfect unison. Behind them, the glow shifted, pouring toward the center of the room, where the wooden floor split open like a wound. Roots pushed through the cracks, thick and black, pulsing with light. They writhed like veins, like arteries, connecting the people in the room to the field itself. I gagged, stumbling back against the wall. You're part of it," I whispered. Mr. Hargrove's glowing eyes locked on mine. "We all are. The corn feeds us. The corn keeps us." The floor shook. The roots twisted, stretching higher, forming shapes. Arms, legs, heads. For a moment I saw the tall figures standing there, their bark-like masks splitting as if grown from the earth itself. "They were here before us," Hargrove said, his voice low and reverent, older than the town, older than the land. "The field is theirs, and once you answer," he leaned closer, "you belong to them." I bolted. The door slammed shut behind me, but I didn't stop. I threw myself at the nearest window, the glass shattering around me as I tumbled back into the rows. The whispers roared. The ground heaved. The corn shifted again, pulling tighter, chasing me deeper. But now, I knew this wasn't just a field. It was alive, and it wanted me. The glass tore my arms as I hit the ground, but pain barely registered. I was already sprinting. The corn swallowed me again, walls of stalks closing tight, their leaves clawing at my skin like fingers trying to hold me back. I didn't care. I had to get out. The whispers followed, louder than ever. "Stay. Home. Family." Every step I took, the ground shifted. Roots buckled beneath the dirt, cracking the soil, tripping me. I stumbled, my breath ragged, And when I looked back, I saw them. The people from the house. They weren't standing anymore. They were moving, lurching, dragging their feet. Faces slack, eyes glowing. Their bodies tangled with roots that pulsed and writhed, pulling them forward, like puppets. "Don't leave us," they moaned in unison. I pushed harder, crashing through the stalks, until, finally, I saw it. A light, not golden this time, cold, white, the moon. I was close. I shoved through the last row and stumbled into the open. My chest heaved as cool night air hit me, the endless corn behind me whispering like 1,000 voices, fading into silence. I was out. I dropped to my knees, shaking with relief, staring at the empty road ahead. The town wasn't far. If I ran, I could make it back. I could survive this. But then, I heard it. Breathing. Slow. Heavy. Behind me. I turned. The scarecrow stood at the edge of the field. Only, it wasn't straw anymore. Its burlap skin had torn, hay spilling out in clumps. Underneath, something black pulsed and writhed, alive. Its button eyes burned with white fire, and its mouth stretched wider than any humans could, ripping open until the stitches split. And I swear I saw rows of teeth that weren't straw at all. It stepped forward. I staggered back, shaking my head. "No, you can't. I'm out. I'm out." The scarecrow tilted its head. The voices rose from the field again. "You left. You broke the circle. You must pay." I bolted toward the road, but my foot caught on something. I hit the ground hard, my face scraping asphalt. I looked down. Roots. They'd snaked out of the dirt, wrapping around my ankle, tightening until I screamed. I clawed at them, yanking, tearing. But more shot out, coiling around my wrists, my legs, pulling me back toward the corn. "No, no, please," I shrieked, my nails ripping bloody against the roots. The scarecrow stepped closer. Its shadow stretched across me, long and sharp, swallowing the moonlight. And then, the voices hushed. One voice rose above them all. A child's voice. "Trade." The roots loosened, just slightly. My chest heaved, my eyes darting around the dark road. What do you mean?" The voice came again, whispering from the field. "One stays. One leaves." My blood ran cold. I knew what it meant. The field wanted balance. If I wanted freedom, someone else had to take my place. The scarecrow loomed closer, its burning eyes fixed on mine, waiting. And in that moment, I realized the truth. Escape was possible, but not without a sacrifice. The roots tightened around my arms, pressing into my skin like cold iron bands. My chest heaved as I stared at the scarecrow's burning eyes. "One stays, one leaves." The child's whisper cut through the silence again, echoing not just in the night but inside my skull. I shook my head violently. No, that's not fair. I didn't agree to this." The scarecrow tilted its head, the torn burlap of its face splitting wider with the sound of fabric ripping. For a sickening moment, I thought it smiled. The roots loosened, just enough for me to breathe, just enough to give me hope. But I understood the threat. Choose or be chosen. The town road stretched ahead of me, empty and silent. If I could reach it, if I could bring someone back, the field would release me. But who? Alicia's face flashed in my mind. She'd been the only one who warned me. She knew something. Maybe she'd even been here before. Mark's face came next. His stupid grin, the way he'd shoved the flashlight in my hand, like this was all a joke. He'd dared me. He deserved it more than I did. Right? My stomach turned. The whispers grew louder, like the field itself was pressing closer, eager for my answer. Choose, choose, choose. The roots lifted me halfway off the ground, dragging me toward the edge of the corn. My fingers clawed at the dirt, desperate to hold on. I can't, I screamed. I can't do this. The scarecrow bent low, its jagged teeth glinting in the moonlight. Its voice was a guttural rasp now, layered with hundreds of others. Then you stay. The roots tightened, wrapping around my chest, squeezing until my ribs creaked. Black spots swam in my vision. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. And then, a sound. A car engine. Headlights flared in the distance, cutting through the night. My heart leapt into my throat. Someone was coming down the road. The roots froze. The whispers hushed. The scarecrow straightened, its head turning toward the light. And then the child's voice came again. Soft, coaxing. Trade. The headlights grew closer, sweeping across me. I could make out the outline of the car now. An old pickup truck rattling toward town. A stranger. An innocent. The roots uncoiled from my chest, sliding back into the dirt, leaving me gasping for breath. My body shook, my mind screaming at the impossible choice in front of me. If I said nothing, I would be taken. If I lured them in, I could walk free. The pickup slowed as it neared, the driver's face faintly visible in the glow. Just some guy, tired, maybe heading home from work. I staggered to my feet, my voice catching in my throat. Help, I croaked, waving my arms. Please, help me. The truck braked hard, tires skidding on asphalt. The driver leaned out the window, confusion on his face. And behind me, the whispers surged. Yes, yes, yes. The scarecrow's shadow loomed closer, waiting. My heart thundered. Sweat poured down my face. Because I knew whatever I did next would decide if I ever left Hollow Acres alive. The cornfield closed around me like a fist. The stalks towered so high they blocked the moonlight, leaving only a faint shimmer of silver cutting through the cracks. My breath came in shallow gasps, each one trembling with dirt and fear. The scarecrow loomed ahead, its head tilting unnaturally, jerking side to side like a puppet whose strings were being pulled by invisible hands. The stitched grin on its burlap face seemed to stretch wider with every step I took. And then the voice returned, the one that came not from its mouth, but from the corn itself, carried on the wind, seeping into my ears like poison. You entered our soil. You breathed our air. You are bound to the harvest. I stumbled backward, shaking my head. No, I didn't. I didn't do anything. The ground shifted beneath my feet. A fissure split open in the dirt, and through it I saw bones. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Pale, brittle skeletons tangled in roots, their mouths frozen in silent screams. Their rib cages cracked open like broken bird cages. My stomach lurched. I staggered back, pressing my hand against a corn stalk for balance. It pulsed beneath my touch like it had a heartbeat. Every harvest has its price, the voice whispered. And now, the field is owed. The scarecrow raised one crooked finger and pointed at me. Instantly, the stalks swayed in unison, bending toward me like worshippers before an altar. No, I shouted. I'm not part of this. Take someone else. And for a moment, the field fell silent. So silent I could hear my blood rushing in my ears. Then, softly, almost sweetly, it replied, "We will, if you give us one." I froze. My mind spun. It was offering me a way out, but the cost was unthinkable. Sacrifice someone else. Give the field a soul that wasn't mine. Images flashed in my mind. My cousin Mark daring me to come out here. My sister, who had begged me not to. My best friend waiting back in town. The faces of people I loved, people I trusted, people who would never see it coming. My throat tightened. You want me to bring you someone? The scarecrow's head twitched, nodding once, slow and deliberate. Its stitched grin split open further, and from inside its burlap chest, I heard something rattling, like seeds in a dry husk. Choose or be chosen. The corn pressed closer. Roots slid over the ground, curling toward my boots, hungry to claim me. I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. The weight of the choice crushed me. Every bone beneath the soil was a reminder of what happened to those who refused. I thought of the skeletons. I thought of their terror. I thought of being buried alive beneath this cursed field. My soul fed into its endless hunger. But then, I thought of the voices I'd never hear again if I gave in. The laughter, the warmth, the people who trusted me. I shook, sobbing, caught between damnation and betrayal. And in that moment, I realized the field wasn't just hungry. It was testing me. It thrived not only on flesh, but on corruption, on breaking people, on twisting them into monsters willing to trade others' lives for their own survival. The real harvest wasn't the bodies. It was the choices. Slowly, I lifted my head. The scarecrow loomed, waiting. The corn hissed, rustling with anticipation. My lips trembled. My chest heaved, and I whispered the words that sealed my fate. I choose. The words scraped my throat like glass. I choose. The silence that followed was unbearable. The cornfield itself seemed to hold its breath, every stalk frozen, waiting. The scarecrow's stitched smile stretched wider, its head tilting, creaking, as though eager to hear the name fall from my lips. My mind raced through faces, through voices, through memories. Mark, who had dared me to come here. My sister, who had always believed in me. My best friend, who trusted me without question. Each possibility felt like carving my own soul in half. The voice slithered back into my ears, sweet as honey, cold as death. Speak the name, and live. The roots at my feet began to coil again, tightening, as if reminding me what would happen if I didn't. Bones cracked in the soil beneath me, echoing like thunder from the graves of past harvests. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. Not with the weight of the choice pressing down on me like the night sky itself. And then, I thought of something. A crack in the curse. I looked up at the scarecrow, its burlap face sagging, stitched grin glinting in the moonlight. My chest heaved. My voice trembled. I choose. You. The words shot out like a knife. For a second, the field went still. The stalks stopped swaying. The roots froze mid-crawl. Even the wind held its breath. The scarecrow's head snapped to the side, twitching, almost confused. Its hollow eyes burned with an unnatural glow. You cannot choose me, the field hissed, the voice now sharper, angry. I am the harvester, not the harvest. But I stood, legs shaking, fists clenched. You said every harvest has its price. You said I could give you someone else. Well, what about the one who's been taking all along? What about you? The earth rumbled violently beneath my feet. Corn stalks whipped and thrashed like they were caught in a hurricane. The scarecrow staggered, its limbs jerking like it was suddenly pulled in two directions at once. From beneath the soil, the skeleton stirred. Bony fingers broke through the dirt, clawing upward. Their hollow sockets glowed faintly, as if answering my defiance. The The voice screamed, not in words this time, but in a roar that shook the field. The roots lashed at me, wrapping around my arms and legs, trying to silence me. But I kept shouting, my throat raw. I choose you. The scarecrow convulsed, its burlap skin splitting, straw bursting from its seams. The stitched grin tore open like a wound. The skeletons surged higher, dragging themselves out of the dirt, their bony hands reaching for the scarecrow, not me. The cornfield shrieked. The stalks bent backward, writhing, twisting. The soil split open wider, a black pit yawning beneath the scarecrow's feet. It struggled, thrashing, its head snapping violently. But the skeletons pulled, dozens of them, then hundreds, dragging it down into the chasm. Its hollow eyes locked onto me as it sank, its grin still stretched wide. But this time, I thought I saw something else. Fear. And then, silence. The ground sealed shut. The cornfield stilled. The air was heavy, but the whispering voice was gone. The scarecrow was gone. I collapsed to my knees, shaking, choking on my own breath. For the first time since I'd entered, the night was quiet. But as I stared at the soil, I realized something that froze me deeper than any scream ever could. The bones that had dragged the scarecrow down hadn't disappeared. They lay scattered across the ground, staring at me with hollow eyes. And one by one, they began to smile. The silence was worse than the screaming. I knelt in the dirt, trembling, my chest heaving as if every breath might be my last. Around me, the skeletons lay scattered like broken dolls, their pale bones glowing faintly in the moonlight. But their jaws were curled into something that chilled me more than their empty eyes. They were smiling. One by one, their skulls tilted toward me, as if acknowledging something, as if waiting. I scrambled backward, dirt clinging to my palms. No, it's over. It's over. But then the ground shifted again. Not violently, not like before. It was subtler this time, almost gentle, like a heartbeat pulsing beneath the soil. Thump, thump, thump. The corn whispered with the rhythm, its stalks swaying in perfect time. And deep inside me, something stirred, a pressure in my chest, in my veins, in my skull, like the field had taken root inside me. I clutched at my shirt, gasping, my nails digging into my skin. My heartbeat wasn't just mine anymore. It matched the soil's. The voice returned, softer now, inside my head. You spoke the words. You chose. You gave us the harvester. I shook violently. I didn't give you anything. I destroyed it. The whisper turned into a hiss, wrapping around my mind like vines. No, you freed us, and now you are bound. The bones scattered across the dirt began to crawl, not toward the soil, not back into their graves, but toward me. Fingers clawed across the ground, ribs dragging, skulls rolling closer. I tried to stand, but my legs felt heavy, rooted. Roots burst from the dirt, coiling up my ankles, weaving into my flesh. I screamed, tearing at them, but they burrowed deeper, pumping something cold and wet into my blood. The skeletons circled me, bowing their skulls low, their grins wide, reverent. And then, my vision blurred. My hands shook. When I looked at them, they weren't hands anymore. The skin was splitting, burlap threads pushing through my flesh, straw sprouting from the wounds. No, please. My voice cracked. I'm not. The whisper inside me deepened. No longer many voices, but one. You are the scarecrow now. The corn bent toward me, hundreds of stalks swaying as though in prayer. The bones clattered against the dirt in unison, a sickening applause. My body twisted, bent, reshaped by their will. The roots spread higher, weaving into my spine, my chest, my throat. I screamed until my voice broke, until my scream became nothing more than a hollow, rattling sound. And then, silence again. I stood in the center of the cornfield, swaying with the stalks. My body wasn't mine anymore. My face was stitched. My chest was stuffed. My arms hung like broken branches in the moonlight. But inside, I was still there, trapped, watching, feeling, forever. The field had its new master, and it was me. The years blurred together. Seasons rose and fell. Storms came and went. But I never moved from my post. The field fed me, bound me, held me in its roots. I was its eyes, its teeth, its sentinel. The soil no longer felt like dirt beneath me. It was my flesh. The wind that hissed through the corn was my breath. The whispers that haunted every intruder's ear. They were my voice, and though my body was burlap and straw, though my limbs creaked with every sway, my mind was still alive. Alive and damned. I don't know how much time passed. Maybe a decade, maybe a century. The cornfield didn't care for clocks or calendars. It only cared for cycles, hunger, harvest. And then, one night under a pale, swollen moon, I heard laughter. Human laughter. The sound carried on the wind, slicing through the field like a knife. My stitched grin never changed, but deep inside, my heart, or whatever was left of it, shuddered. They were here. Outsiders. I saw them first at the field's edge. Flashlights bobbing, cutting white holes into the black night. A group of 4. Young, brave, stupid, just like I once was. Dare you to go in? One of them whispered, laughing nervously. They stepped between the rows. The corn closed behind them, like a mouth swallowing prey. I felt the soil hum. The roots stirred. The bones beneath the earth rattled softly, like teeth chattering in anticipation. They didn't see me at first. They never do. I was just another scarecrow to them, another lifeless sentinel stitched together to frighten crows. But when they drew closer, when their flashlights caught the burlap of my face, I let them see it. The grin, the stitches, the hollow sockets that burned faintly in the moonlight. One of them froze. Guys, did it just move? The others laughed, brushing it off. And then, when they turned, they found the paths twisted, the rows endless, the exit gone. That's when the fear started. Their voices rose, frantic, echoing exactly like mine had all those years ago. The corn hissed with their panic, feeding on it. The roots uncurled from the ground, slithering closer. I didn't chase them. I didn't have to. I simply raised one crooked arm. The stalks bowed with me. The bones stirred beneath the soil. The field shivered with hunger. And when I spoke, it wasn't my voice they heard. It was the voice of the harvest, carried on every stalk, every root, every shadow. Every harvest has its price. Their screams filled the night. The cornfield leaned in to listen, and I, its faithful servant, its prisoner, its master, welcomed them home. Because in the cornfield, the harvest never ends.